Great to have your company again, Aries. It's August 2018. Thanks for joining me. Look, you know, when the planets are retrograde, as you can see here in the upper part of your horoscope, there's a lot of energy. Look, Mercury, the nodes are generally retrograde, but here we see Saturn, Pluto in your career sector, and your ruling planet as well now in your 11th house. We just had a recent blood moon, if you recall, also occurring here in this area of your friendships. And note this square, it's a double square here from these two planets, your ruler and your past karma point here in this what we call hard relationship with Uranus in your financial sector. So there's a few areas that this can play out in, and that is, number one, as I've mentioned, your social affairs, your friendships, but also your income, finances, because this 11th house has to do with business profits, and your second house has to do with income earned from your self-exertion. We notice that as the month commences, you've got this Moon and Neptune conjunction, again another planet retrograde here in your 12th house of expenses. So there's a lot of money stuff going on here for you. You'll notice also here that when you've got a double square here, this is what's called a T-square. And the instability of this planet in your finance sector is definitely a warning that you've got to be careful not to do things in a haphazard manner. It's very, very critical for you to keep a watch on your finances during this period. Now, we see that the new moon on the 11th takes place in your 5th house. This is this precise area where we've got another one of these challenging aspects to Uranus here in your finance sector. The 5th house is speculative, it's creative, it has to do with procreation in terms of your actual biological offspring, but it's also creation in terms of the way you express yourself. Now normally what this tells us, with all these retrograde planets, the typical Western interpretation of that is, oh, you mustn't do anything under these transits. Well, that's true in one sense and not true in another. I've been doing some research on this and finding that the retrograde planet is actually giving the results as if it's in the previous house. So if we jump back to this one, your ruling planet, we see that a lot of stuff going on in your workplace, and that has to be the case with these two very powerful planets, Saturn and Pluto. We've mentioned that on several occasions because they are quite slow-moving planets. A revisionary composition of planets, an aggregate of revisionary planets here in the career sector, the income sector, social sector. We see that here in the creative part of your horoscope, and this is going to be triggered around the 11th, 12th, just at the new moon time. And then on the 24th, again, we will see that trigger with the full moon back here in this area of your horoscope. So there's a lot of dynamic energy across, we call this the 5-11 axis. Creativity, romance, friendships, socialization, income from business activities, and group activities as well, because the 11th house, in your case Aquarius, is a double whammy there in terms of your humanitarian consciousness, the collective consciousness, or raising your awareness to that level of the group, rather than it just being all about me, me, me. So the other thing is that I was just about to talk about the retrograde Mercury here, and the fact that it is ruling your 6th house of service, and your relationship planet is in this sector. So your creativity and your relationships, romance, friendships are very, very much directly connected to this notion of service. How profitable can you be? How successful can your relationships, friendships, marital partnerships be during this cycle? That's all dependent upon this sixth house. Aries, this is your sun sign here, and we see that the sixth house is strongly triggered. The ruler of the sixth house is very much activated by being retrograde. This also hints at the necessity to be careful of your health during this period. So it seems as if there's a lot of stuff going on, a lot of spokes coming from different directions to the center of the wheel, and that indicates maybe an overburdening of yourself throughout this period. Around the 11th, 12th, at that new moon, we see a new approach being taken to your creative impulses. That's challenged dramatically here because, you know, when you've got the finance sectors, and also here we see Venus ruling your income in the sixth house of debt, in Virgo, debilitated, then you've got some struggles, some challenges on your hand throughout the month of August in dealing with this. We see also that, fortunately, the transit of Mercury here gives you the opportunity to think back carefully. And I say this to people, you know, are you living in a jar? Are you living in a jar? By that I mean, are you so confined by what you do that this whole creative expressive part of your being has been completely shut off? So it's not just a revision about how you make your money, which is these areas. It's not about the work so much that you're doing, so much as how do you feel about the work that you're doing. Now, it does come back to this sixth house. I think it's all hinging on this, even though at a glance it looks like this 11th house of profitability, friendships, fifth house of love affairs. It's all hinging on this planet here. Because Mercury is the ruler of Venus, and service is the key word for you this month. I haven't jumped around a lot this month for you talking about, you know, this planet, that house, these transits, when they're going to happen. I've focused predominantly on the new moon here in the fifth house, full moon in the 11th house, which is a very significant key, I think, for you to really moving forward and managing your finances, and most of all, using this revisionary period as a means of really getting into the nitty-gritty of what it is you're enjoying. If you're living in a jar, smash it. Take another look at the site, astrology.com.au. I'm always talking about it. You can subscribe here. Go to the site, find out more about what's happening in the month of August and the rest of the year indeed, along with our daily readings, free oracles, and yours truly, along with our really great collection of astrologers and practitioners there to help you with any sort of personal issues that you may have. See you next month. Bye-bye for now.